I kept the extra key to Grandma May's bungalow on the same lanyard as my work badge, the metal knocking against plastic every time I bent to unlock the clinic door. It reminded me that there was always one more thing to open for someone else. My name is Kaya Weaver. I'm 31 and I work as a bookkeeper at a physical therapy clinic on the south side of our county. Numbers are the part of life that makes sense to me. Due dates, invoices, the way a column adds up whether or not you feel like it should. My younger brother Caleb is 28. His wife Isabel just turned 27. Our parents, Rosalind and Herbert, are in their early 60s. Mom is 62, Dad is 64. When Grandma May died in January at 86, Dad was named executor. Probate started in February. It's been slow, like everyone warned us it would be. Caleb and Isabel moved into the bungalow just until probate wraps, with Mom saying it was good to keep a presence in the house. The county bills property taxes quarterly, February 3rd and May 1st, so far this year, when Mom asked me to keep the taxes current while we get the estate account set up. I put my card on the county portal because late fees are predictable and avoidable. 2 cycles at $874 each. I also fronted $300 to a plumber named Eli to swap out a corroded sink trap that was leaking into the cabinet, and $45 to Bran, a guy I found on the neighborhood page, for an early mow when the grass started looking judgmental. $293 total. I kept every receipt in a folder labeled May Estate Carry. The key lived on my lanyard because I was the one who met Eli and waited for the water to run clear. The extra key meant my lunch hour turned into errands, flushing a toilet that had a slow fill, checking the breaker when the dryer tripped. I told myself this was temporary. I told myself Caleb and Isabel were camping, not moving. On the last Wednesday in May, we had dinner at my parents' house. Roast chicken, salad, a pan of rice. Dad asked Caleb about job leads between bites. Mom kept refilling Isabel's wine like that would oil the evening. The AC rattled in the vent above the table. Isabel ate fast. She didn't look up when she shoved her plate across the table at me. Make yourself useful, she said, like I was part of the dishwasher cycle. The ceramic scraped loud on wood and the sound went through my teeth. I stared at the blue smudge of gravy she'd left at the rim. Caleb glanced at me, then away. Mom made a face I know too well, the one that wants to disappear a moment without naming it. Dad's fork paused, then kept going. The air felt hot, like we'd all agreed to pretend this was fine. I set the plate back in front of Isabel. I'm not the help, I said. My voice was even. I didn't yell. It still landed like a coin in a quiet room. She rolled her eyes. Okay, wow. Kaya, Mom said, soft and warning, the word she uses like a potholder to pick up a problem. I have to go, I said, standing. I've got an early start tomorrow. In the car, I sat with my hands on the steering wheel and let my breath catch up. The key on my lanyard tapped the dash. I thought about the last few months, the day I put my card into the county website because Mom asked and nobody else had a card handy, the way I texted Caleb the Eli invoice and got a thumbs up emoji instead of money, Isabel posting a story about free rent with a winking face like the house was a prank the universe pulled for her benefit. At home, I kicked off my shoes and opened my laptop on the kitchen counter. The good thing about numbers is they don't require courage. They just require you to type them. I pulled up the county portal and clicked off auto pay. I opened the water and electric accounts, the ones where I had added my card temporarily so the lights wouldn't get shut off while names were changing, and I removed my payment method. I scrolled my spreadsheet, May Estate Carry, and added a line at the bottom, May 29th. Stopped all auto pay tied to Kaya's card. I didn't send a text. I didn't write a paragraph I'd regret. I made one more note to myself, June 1st, email with totals and a plan. Then I hung the lanyard with the key on a hook by my door, not around my neck. The metal didn't knock against anything. The quiet felt like a decision. The next morning I came in early before the first patient's gait training clacked down the hall. The clinic smelled like coffee and disinfectant. I set my mug by the keyboard, pulled up my spreadsheet, and drafted the email I'd promised myself I would send. Subject: May bungalow expenses and next steps. Action needed by June 30th. I wrote it clean and neutral. No adjectives that could argue later. As of June 1st, I will not cover any further house expenses. Current balance due to me for house costs paid. Property tax, Feb 1, $874. Property tax, May 4, $874. Plumber, Eli Jackson. Sink trap, $300. Lawn mow, Brian Woods, $45. Total, $293. Please set a repayment plan by June 30th or pay in full by that date. If no plan is in place by June 30th, I will ask Dad as executor to transition the house to a rental with market rate rent, effective July. I attached PDFs of the county receipts and the invoices. I CC'd Mom and Dad. I kept the tone factual, the way I do past due notices at work, dates, amounts, what happens next. I read it twice out loud in an empty office, then scheduled it to send at 8 a.m. on June 1st. Numbers don't need courage, but hitting send still does. Scheduling it gave me a small runway. Between calls, I opened tabs for the utilities. I'd already removed my card last night. Now I went a step further. I called the electric company and waited through 3 loops of hold music. When a woman picked up, I gave the account number and asked to remove my email and access from the account and add Dad's estate mailing address and Caleb's phone number as the primary contact. She said they needed authorization from the account holder. The account holder is the estate of May C.O. Herbert, I said. He's my father. He's CC'd on an email to occupants to handle updates. I can conference him in? We three-way called. Dad answered a gruff voice like I'd woken him up, but he gave the okay, polite and brief. We did the same with water. I wrote the confirmation numbers on a sticky note and then into the spreadsheet. Then I archived the file, a little ritual in my brain that felt like closing a tab that had been opened too long. I still had the folder with receipts, but the active part of this wasn't mine anymore. At lunch, I ate a Tupperware salad and avoided my phone. I knew what Mom's voice would sound like. I still jumped when it rang. "Hi, honey," she said, sugar sad like I'd broken my arm and she was trying not to cry. "I saw your email draft in Dad's inbox. Do we need to be so formal?" "It's just clear, Mom," I said. "It's dates and amounts." She sighed. "I know it's been a lot. Just float it till Christmas. We'll be in a better place by then. Caleb's interviewing. The estate account is taken forever, which you know how these things go." "I do," I said. "That's why I'm setting a date." "No, Mom." "I'm not a bank." There was a soft clink on her end like she set a spoon down. "You're not being very helpful." "I've been helpful," I said. "I paid $2,093 to keep the county off our backs and the water running. I'm asking to be repaid in a plan if needed. If they can't, the house needs to pay its own way." A stretch of quiet pulled in the line. She hates silence. It means the thing isn't fixing itself. Finally, "I'll talk to Caleb." "Okay," I said. "I CC'd you both so we can keep it in writing." "Kaya," she said, and there was a lot in my name. "Think about how this looks." "It looks like a plan," I said, and we said goodbye in that half-chilly way families do when no one wants to hang up first. June 1st came with the clinic printer jamming. I fixed it with 2 fingers and sent the email. The lanyard with the extra key stayed on its hook at home, and I didn't miss the weight of it. I checked my inbox too often that day. Nothing. Caleb posted a photo of their cat on his story with King of the Castle, which I decided not to read as commentary. Isabel liked a meme about some people needing control to feel safe. I set my phone face down and balanced the petty ledger in my head with the one in my spreadsheet. Dad texted a thumbs up to my email. Mom didn't reply. The house sat 3 miles away, with my grandmother's curtains still in the front window and an electric bill that would come whether anyone opened it or not. On June 2nd, Saturday, I went to the farmer's market and bought green beans I didn't need. I didn't drive by the bungalow. I vacuumed the crumbs out of my car and found one of Grandma's church bulletins under the seat from January, the date circled in blue ink. I put it in the glove box instead of the trash. June 3rd, Monday came and went. The inbox stayed quiet. No plan, no acknowledgement. A quiet that felt deliberate, like if they didn't respond, the terms couldn't be real. I made dinner for myself, eggs and toast, and ate at my tiny table where I balanced books and late notices. The key didn't knock against anything. The calm I felt wasn't triumphant. It was like standing on both feet after balancing too long on one. The date was set. The math was done. Now I waited. The paper was the exact yellow of a highlighter, and it flapped a little in the breeze. Taped right to Grandma's bungalow door at eye level, county solid waste, delinquent notice, past due amount $194. Penalty $97. Service interruption scheduled if not paid. Isabel texted me a photo before 9. Your payment bounced. I stared at it while the clinic copier chewed a stack of new patient forms. There was a little oval of tape shadow in the picture where the light caught it. There was no payment, I typed. I took my card off. I'm not your bank. 3 dots pulsed, then nice. So now the trash doesn't get picked up? You and Caleb need to set up your own payment or talk to Dad about the estate account, I wrote. The notice has the number to call. She sent a thumbs down and a screen grab of my as of June 1st email like it was evidence in a case. I locked my phone and went back to the numbers that do as they're told. By noon, Mom had called. I let it go to voicemail. I saw the picture, she said when I listened later, her voice in that sugar-sad register. Keep receipts and we can even up later, honey. Don't make a big deal of a little notice. The notice wasn't little. It was tape on a door from the county, and keeping receipts was what I'd already done. On my way home from work Friday, I drove down May Street. Habit more than choice. The bungalow sat under its maple like always, the same sag in the porch rail, the same chalk lines from some kid's hopscotch, the yellow paper still bright against the white paint. I didn't go in. I didn't touch the key on my lanyard. I stood on the walk, took my own photo for my records, and left it there. Sunday dinner came the way it always does, a text from Mom with the menu and a heart, spaghetti and meatballs, garlic bread, salad. I got there a few minutes early with a grocery bag of seltzer. The house was warm. Dad had the baseball game on low in the living room. Mom was skimming sauce at the stove. Hi, sweetheart, she said, like last week hadn't happened. Grab plates. I set the table. Caleb came in with Isabel behind him, her sunglasses pushed up on her head. She didn't say hello. Caleb kissed Mom's cheek and took the salad tongs like he was helpful. We ate, forks and polite small talk. Dad asked about the clinic. I asked him about the game. Isabel told a story about her co-worker's birthday brunch that took too long. When there was a lull, Mom breathed in big. So I saw that little county thing. Keep your receipts, Kaya, and we'll even up when everything evens out. I put my fork down. The receipts are already kept, I said. The balance is $2,093. The plan is what I sent June 1st. Repayment by June 30th. or we transition the house to rent in July. I'm not covering any more bills." Isabel snorted. "We saw your email, calling it market rate like you're a landlord now." "It's Grandma's house," I said. "It needs to pay its own way if you can't." Caleb's jaw worked like he was chewing a thought. "We're figuring it out," he said softly, not looking at me. Mom made the face that wants to turn a conversation into something you can fold and put away. "Let's not turn dinner into a thing." I reached into my tote and set the yellow paper in the center of the table. I'd stopped on my way over and peeled it off. The tape took a curl of white paint with it. It stuck to my fingers. No one moved for a second. The big black letters did all the talking I'd been trying not to do. Dad pulled his reading glasses from his shirt pocket and leaned in. $97 penalty, he said more to himself. He doesn't like wasted money. Who's calling this in tomorrow? Caleb can, Mom said quickly. Or you can, Herb. You have the executor hat. It needs to come from the people living there, I said. I already removed myself from the utilities. The account has Dad's mailing address, Caleb's phone listed, the numbers on the notice. Isabel shifted her wine glass, the base squeaking against the wood. Kinda rude to bring a flyer to dinner. It's not a flyer, I said. It's the county. The math isn't personal. Caleb nodded once, eyes on the yellow. I'll call, he said. He looked up at me for just a heartbeat. We'll figure it out. Mom reached for the paper like she could put it in a drawer. We will even up later, she murmured, like a prayer she'd said for years. The date is June 30th, I said, not raising my voice. There isn't a later after that. If there's a plan, put it in writing. If not, we'll move to rent. Dad folded the notice in half neatly, then in half again. He slid it to the side of his plate. Okay, he said, and in his voice I heard that the stakes had finally gotten concrete. We cleared dishes without choreography. Isabel carried her own plate to the sink. Caleb took the trash bag out, tied it in a knot I knew he'd have to fix later. When I left, I slipped the folded notice back into my tote. Paper matters, dates matter. The tape had left a little dust of paint on the edge, a reminder you can feel when you run your thumb over it. On Monday after work, there was a knock that sounded like someone being polite on purpose. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and opened the door to Reagan from Grandma's street. We'd met in March when I waited for Eli to fix the sink. She'd walked over with her dog in a welcome to the block tone, and I'd given her my number for emergencies before I knew what that would invite. She held up her phone now, a photo already open. The bungalow's lawn tall and seedy, crabgrass seaming the sidewalk, the maple dropping helicopters in drips. I'm sorry to bother you, she said. It's getting a little out of hand. The city mows after notice sometimes, and they charge. I appreciate you coming by, I said. I wanted to fix it. My fingers actually itched to text Brian. I'm not handling day-to-day anymore. Caleb and Isabel are living there. I can connect you. She nodded, relieved to have a direction for her worry. I sent a quick group text. Hi, Reagan lives next door to the bungalow and has a lawn concern. Looping you in, Isabel and Caleb. Then I put my phone face down on the counter and stood there with the discomfort like it was a guest I didn't want, but had to make tea for. Boundaries are boring to enforce. They also work. When I picked the phone back up 15 minutes later, Isabel had replied with a thumbs up, and we're on it. No other words. I let that be enough. At the clinic on Tuesday, I printed the electric and water removal of authorized user confirmations and slid them into the back of the May estate carry folder. I added the confirmation numbers to my spreadsheet in small numbers that made my brain feel smooth. I checked off take my email off trash on a sticky note and tossed it. The county didn't let you manage solid waste online easily, so that one had been old school phone calls last week with Dad on the line. Done. Isabel posted a story at lunch that said in white letters over a picture of an iced coffee, "Some people love control. I love freedom." I closed the app and reconciled the copays. The numbers don't care what you call them, they just add. Mom tried a new angle that night. She called while I was stirring pasta and didn't bother pretending she was asking about my day. "Think of Grandma's legacy, Kaya," she said. "She wanted us to look out for each other." "I am," I said, keeping my voice even. "I kept the taxes current. I handled the plumber. I'm not going to let the county lien her house because of a trash bill, but I'm also not paying for it." Silence, then softly, "It's just so unpleasant." "Unpleasant is different from wrong," I said. "June 30th is the date." On Wednesday, Dad texted, "Got a certified from the county at the house. I'll bring it by." He showed up at the clinic between patients in his work polo, the envelope green striped with that official look that makes your stomach think about running. He handed it to me without a speech. "Came to my address," he said. "Estate of May, C.O. me." I slipped a finger under the flap and read on the counter by the copier, "Notice of lien intent, solid waste service. Past due $194, penalty $97, administrative fee $15, total $3,600. Balance must be paid by June 25 to avoid lien certification to ad valorem tax roll." It listed the parcel number and the bungalow's address, all in bold like a teacher making sure you copied it right. Dad tapped the paper with one finger. "Concrete enough for you," he said, trying to make a joke out of it and failing. "It's clear," I said. "Thanks for bringing it." "You're doing the right thing," he said quietly. Then he left, the door chime dinging behind him. I took a photo of the notice and filed the original in the folder. Then I stood at the clinic window and watched a man across the parking lot fold a stroller with the kind of attention I needed to borrow. I didn't want to be the one who made everything harder. I wanted the lawn to be just grass and the trash to be a bin that rolled to the curb. I also wanted my boundaries to mean something even when no one clapped for them. I texted Caleb, "We need to talk by Friday. Kitchen table at my place." "I'll have options." He responded in under a minute. "Okay." No hedging, no emoji. It made my shoulders drop an inch. I texted Mom and Dad in the same thread as my June 1st email. "Lien intent arrived today for solid waste. Total $306 due by June 25 to avoid lien on property. Caleb and I are meeting Friday to discuss repayment plan and next steps." Mom sent a heart, then a minute later, "Thank you for keeping track of everything, honey." It read like she was trying on gratitude to see if it fit. That evening I drove past the bungalow out of habit. The lawn had a couple of dark tracks through it, like someone had started with a mower and then stopped. The yellow notice was gone from the door. The trash bin was still at the side of the house under the eave. A cat sat in the window and blinked at me, bored. I kept driving and didn't park. At home, I set 2 printed forms on my kitchen table and wrote option A at the top of one and option B at the top of the other. I filled in blanks with dates the way I would for any client. June 30th, July 1st, 30 days. I made each sentence plain and short enough it could stand on its own without a phone call attached. Then I washed the pasta pot and left the papers to dry on the wood like something cooling from the oven. Friday would come either way, so would the 25th. Dates don't care if you're ready, they just arrive. Caleb showed up Friday evening looking like he'd slept in his clothes. He smelled like stale coffee and gas station mints. I'd cleared my tiny kitchen table, the one where I balance ledgers and eat microwave dinners, and set 2 pens and 2 neat stacks of paper side by side like placemats. He didn't take off his shoes. He sat and put his hands flat on the wood, eyes on the grain the way people do when they don't want to look up and make the next part real. "I'm sorry," he said before I could start. "I thought you had it." The last two words were small. "I had it," I said, "and I stopped having it on June 1st. He nodded, winced like the nod hurt. "Isabel's been overwhelmed. The estate account is still, Dad says the bank wants more forms." He trailed off. "Our card is maxed. The car needs brakes. It's just—" He gestured at the air. I slid the first stack across the table, the one labeled at the top in plain font, Option A, Repayment and Move-Out Agreement. "Option A," I said. "You repay what I covered, $2,093 at $150 per month. First payment due on your move-out date. You move out within 30 days of today by Sunday, July 7th. You keep all utilities and the trash current until you leave. You send me a photo of the solid waste receipt by June 25 so the lien doesn't hit the tax roll." He picked up the top page, scanned it, lips moving a little like he was trying to keep up with the words. "July 7th, he repeated. "We can do 30 days. He swallowed. 150. We can do that." I slid the second stack over. Option B, lease. Market rate rent at $100 per month. 1 month deposit. Proof of income and the deposit due by next Friday, June 14th. Formal lease starting July 1st. Same requirements, utilities and trash current. No balance with the county. He looked at that one longer, then put it back down like it was heavier. "We don't have the deposit," he said, voice barely above the hum of the fridge. "And proof of income? Izzy's between schedules. My hours aren't steady." He rubbed his eyes. "I don't want to get us into something and then miss the first month." "Then it's option A," I said. "We'll list the house for rent so there's no gap. You'll have the month to pack. No one's going to throw your stuff on the lawn." His mouth quirked like he wasn't sure if he could laugh. "Thanks." I pointed to the line items. "The trash bill is $306 with the fee now, due by June 25th. That has to be paid directly. I'm not adding anything else to the amount you owe me." "We'll pay it," he said quickly. "I'll call Monday. We'll figure it out." "Call today if you can," I said. "They're open on Fridays until 6, or pay online." "The parcel number is in Dad's envelope." He flinched like I'd caught him in a test he hadn't studied for. "Right. Okay, I'll do it tonight." I handed him a pen. "Initial here for understanding the terms and sign there." His hand shook a little as he wrote his name. It wasn't dramatic. It was what happens when you make a decision you've been avoiding and your body catches up. We both signed and dated. I wrote first payment due July 7 in the margin and circled it. I added proof of trash payment by June 25 and underlined. I took a photo of each page with my phone and texted him copies before he asked. "I'm going to email this to Mom and Dad," I said, "so everyone knows what's happening. I'll also send you a link to set up automatic payments for the $150 on the 7th of each month." He nodded. "Okay." We sat for a minute in the kind of quiet that isn't hostile, just empty of all the things we could say. He picked at a nick in the table. "I know Isabel's been hard," he said. "She's angry. She thinks you're—" He stopped. "She's angry." "I'm not asking her to be grateful," I said. "I'm asking her to be an adult." He let out a breath that sounded like it had been holding his chest hostage. "I'll get boxes from the grocery store. We'll start this weekend." "I'll come by to take photos Sunday afternoon," I said. "For the listing. I'll stay out of your way." He stood, then hesitated. "Thank you," he said, eyes finally meeting mine, "for not letting it get worse." "It's the county that doesn't let it get worse," I said. "I'm just reading the dates." He almost smiled at that. At the door, he turned back. I'll pay the trash thing tonight. Send me the receipt, I said. After he left, the apartment smelled like his coffee for a while. I sat back down at the table and emailed the signed agreement to Mom and Dad with a short note. Caleb chose option A, move out by July 7th. First $150 due that day. Trash bill to be paid by June 25th. He's handling tonight. Dad replied with a simple, received. Mom wrote, thank you, and then 5 minutes later, we'll help them pack. I put the folder back in the cabinet and set a calendar reminder for July 7th and another for June 25th. The dates sat there solid as furniture. My phone buzzed an hour later, a photo of a county receipt, paid in full, $306. Then a text from Caleb, done. The pen ink at the bottom of our copies was still drying. The plan was not a feeling anymore. It was signatures and numbers and a red circle around a Sunday on my wall calendar. The agreement sat on my table like it weighed more than paper. I slid it into the May estate carry folder with a fresh tab labeled Repayment Caleb. I forwarded the signed PDF to Dad again with a short line, for estate file. He replied, filed, which is his version of a hug. Isabel didn't come to the meeting. She sent a paragraph an hour later that read like she'd started at a sprint and never slowed down. I can't believe you're stealing the house out from under family, like it's a thing on a shelf you decided you get to keep. We were told we could be there until probate ends. This is abusive. Enjoy your landlord power trip. No line breaks, no question marks. I typed 3 drafts and deleted them. Then I wrote, Caleb signed an agreement. Move out is July 7th. I'm listing the house this week with Dad's okay. I CC'd Dad. Isabel left it on scene. Sunday afternoon, I drove over with my camera. I texted first. I'll take photos for the listing. Then I'm out. Caleb leaned in the doorway with a roll of painter's tape around his wrist and a scuffed box at his feet. He looked tired but calmer, like choosing had let him put one foot on the ground. Living room first? I asked. Yeah, he said. We moved our stuff to one side. Isabel was in the bedroom. I could hear drawers opening and closing with a little too much emphasis. I kept my shoes on and moved through the house like a guest, slow and careful. I took pictures of the light on the hardwood, the kitchen with its old enamel sink, the tidy bathroom where Eli's new trap shone under the cabinet like a piece of jewelry no one would see. In the hallway, I passed the hall closet and saw the box of Grandma's dishes tucked under the coats. The top plate was blue willow, the one with the chipped edge from a Thanksgiving 3 houses ago. I left it there. I'm not a museum. Back at my table that night, I wrote a listing that sounded like a person, not a brochure. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, quiet street under maple, washer, dryer hookups, window AC units, small fenced yard. $100 per month, no smoking. I included managed by family during probate, formal lease provided. I sent it to Dad. He wrote back, listed. Background checks a must. I posted it on the local rental page and a site that charges $20 to screen. I set up a Google Voice number so my phone wouldn't explode. By noon Monday, my inbox had 23 messages and 4 sounded human. I called back the ones who had punctuation and jobs. A woman named Ainsley left a voicemail with a clear voice. Hi, I'm a 4th grade teacher at Eastview. I'm looking for a quiet place. I have a cat and references. She offered to bring a folder, which made me like her before I met her. We set a showing for Tuesday at 5. I texted Caleb, showing tomorrow. Can you crate king? He wrote back, yes, we'll be out. Mom called that night. She didn't say hello. Could we do 1 more month? She asked, straight into it. Just August, and then they'll be out. Isabel's sister might have a place by then. They have 30 days, I said. That is 1 more month. She made a small sound like I'd set a dish down too hard. You're being so unyielding. I'm being clear, I said. They agreed. The listing is up. The trash is paid. The county won't add a lien. This is as gentle as this gets. She sighed. I'll help them pack. Thank you, I said. Boxes are good. Label them. Tuesday at 5, Ainsley showed up right on time in a blue cardigan, even though it was warm, carrying a neat folder with tabs. She had the calm of someone who manages 25 children before lunch. Her hair was pulled back in a way that said, I make lists. Hi, I'm Ainsley, she said, smiling like we were both trying to make the same thing happen. Kaya, I said, come on in. We walked the room. She asked practical questions. How old is the roof? Does the stove work? Who handles lawn care? I answered in the same register. 12 years. Gas stove, reliable. Tenant handles lawn. I can recommend someone affordable. She scribbled notes on a printed checklist. She handed me the folder at the end without ceremony. Pay stubs, a letter from her principal, references, a clean background check she'd already run on herself because our HR makes us do one every summer anyway. I didn't know people did that, but of course a teacher would. This feels right, she said simply, standing in the doorway with the afternoon light catching dust in the air. If you'll have me. I'll run my screening and check references, I said. I'll let you know by Friday. If approved, deposit and first month's due at least signing. She nodded. I can bring a cashier's check. After she left, I texted Dad. Met Ainsley, teacher, strong application, running screening. He wrote, sounds good. An hour later, my phone buzzed in the parking lot of the grocery store. Isabel, we put a box of Grandma's dishes in your trunk. You seem to want them so bad. I looked up reflexively, scanning the lot, then popped my trunk. There it was, a cardboard box with kitchen and marker, edges soft from age. The top plate was Grandma's blue willow, the chip like a crescent moon near the rim. For a second I thought about the Sunday we ate pie on the porch and Grandma told us about moving into the bungalow in 1959, how the maple had been a stick then. I lifted the plate and wrapped it in the dish towel I keep in the trunk for groceries that sweat. I set it gently on the passenger seat. I closed the trunk and took the rest of the box upstairs because there were other plates in there that deserved not to be dashed around as a point. I texted Caleb. Got the dishes. Please don't put things in my car without asking. He wrote back, that was Izzy. Sorry. I put the blue willow on my counter and washed it by hand. Heirlooms don't fix habits. Contracts do. I dried the plate and slid it into the cabinet like a ledger balanced to the penny. Then I opened my laptop and checked the tenant screening dashboard. Ainsley's report pinged complete, clean. Her references picked up on the first ring. Calm made the air feel different, even in my small kitchen with a cardboard box at my feet and the smell of dish soap in the air. Move-out day was cardboard and humidity, the kind that makes tape lose its stick so you have to press harder. I pulled up at 9 with a sleeve of trash bags and a small cooler of waters because I didn't want thirst to be the fight we had. The bungalow looked both emptier and messier at once. Boxes stacked along the wall, a basket of orphan socks by the couch. Mom was in the kitchen labeling a box pantry like the word could organize anything. Dad hovered in the doorway, hands in his pockets, his let's keep the peace aura turned up to medium. Morning, I said. Caleb nodded, hair damp at the edges. Almost done. Isabel straightened from a pile of curtain rods with the air of someone summoned to a stage she didn't audition for. "This is bent," she said, holding one up like it was a broken law. It was already like this. "It can go in the donate or the trash," I said. "Up to you." She rolled her eyes and slid it into a box marked "Misk." I set my notepad on the kitchen counter and opened my phone camera. "I'm going to do a quick walkthrough," I said to Caleb. "Just documenting condition." He swallowed. "Okay." I started in the bedroom, scuffed paint where a dresser had kissed the wall too hard, a nail head shiny where a picture had been. In the hall, the smoke detector was missing over the doorway, the mounting bracket a little circle of dust. I made a note, "Replace." In the bathroom, Eli's trap was clean and dry, a small mercy. The yard out back had gone patchy where boxes had sat too long on the grass. A corner of the fence leaned like it wanted to nap. Nothing catastrophic, just the wear of people living. Dad followed me with his silence, then finally said, "You'll want to get a fresh detector in here today." "I brought one," I said. "I'll install it after the keys." We ended in the living room where the cat carrier sat open like a trap without bait. Caleb wiped his palms on his jeans and handed me a small ring. 2 keys, and the little one for the back door that always stuck. "I'm sorry," he said, eyes on the floorboards, "for all of it." "I know," I said. I believed him. Belief doesn't change terms, it just makes the air easier to breathe. Mom came in with a box of spices and looked between us. "We're almost out of your hair," she said, too bright. Then a notch lower to me, "Let's keep this kind." "It is," I said. He handed me the keys. Isabel brushed past with a grocery bag of cleaning supplies, the plastic squeaking. "Enjoy your little empire," she muttered. "It's Grandma's house," I said steady, "and it's not a toy." She gave a dry laugh and kept walking. They loaded the last boxes. Dad tied the hatch of the SUV with a bungee cord that had seen other summers. Mom hugged me in a way that was mostly about her own arms. Caleb stood with his hands on the top of the cat carrier like he needed to feel something solid. "We'll start the payments," he said. "I set the auto pay for today." "Okay," I said. "Send me a screenshot if you want, but I'll see it." They pulled away. The quiet after a car leaves is a particular kind of loud. I stood in the doorway for a minute, then called the locksmith. He came at 4, a guy with a baseball cap and an efficient way of carrying 3 things in one hand. "2 deadbolts, 1 knob," he said, taking in the doors with a practiced glance. "Front and back," I said. "New keys, 2 sets." While he worked, I installed the smoke detector, balancing on Grandma's old step stool, the wood worn where her feet had been. I took one last pass through with the mop, wiped the counters. I texted Ainsley, "Keys ready, lease signing at 6, okay?" She replied, "Yes, I have the cashier's check." "See you then." At a little before 6, Ainsley walked up the path with a folder and a paper bag. "Figured you might not have paper towels here yet," she said, setting the bag on the counter. "Also a plant. It's hard to move into a place without something alive." We sat at the kitchen counter where so many lists had been made. I slid the lease across. 12 months. Wiring $100 per month. Deposit equal to 1 month. Move in July 9 with prorated rent for the rest of July. She read each page, initialed neatly where I'd flagged with tabs. I initialed and signed. We exchanged keys and the envelope from the bank with a stamped receipt. I gave her a 1-page sheet with trash day, the utility contact info, and call Eli if the sink ever starts talking again. "Thank you," she said, not effusive, just genuine. "This feels good." "It does," I said. "Welcome." She left, promising to bring the cat on Tuesday. The house felt like a hell breath finally let out. As the porch light clicked on, my phone buzzed. Deposit posted, the bank app said in its neutral font. Then another buzz. ACH payment received. $150. Caleb's name next to the line like a small completion. I sat on the step with the plant Ainsley had brought, a pathos already trying to climb, and watched the maple shift against the pink of a July evening. The door behind me clicked shut with its new tumblers, the old keys useless in the pockets they used to belong to. I could feel the shape of the day in my shoulders, the weight of cardboard, the scrape of ceramic, the press of tape, a ledger balanced in ways you can't always show someone on a spreadsheet. Tomorrow I'd post the rented update. Tonight I locked up and drove home with the windows down, the lanyard light on its hook and nothing knocking against me. By the time the maple out front started dropping a few crisp leaves onto the sidewalk, the house had a rhythm that didn't need me to count for it. Ainsley set up auto pay from her bank. The first full month rent hit on the first with a little ping that I didn't have to watch for. Dad finally got the estate account squared with the bank, forms signed, checks ordered, and he reimbursed me from July's prorate and August's rent. Caleb's $150 came through on the 7th again with the same neutral subject line. I opened my spreadsheet, typed in the deposits, and watched the balance I'd carried since February finally click to zero. I closed the file and put the paper folder back in the cabinet like a tool you keep because it's useful, not because you like it. Ainsley hung a little wine chime by the back door and planted herbs in a row of chipped mugs along the porch rail. She texted me once about the mower. Do you have a recommendation? I sent her Brian's number and a sentence about his fair rates. The next time I drove by, the lawn had the neat look of someone who makes a living, making edges line up. Reagan waved from her driveway and gave me a thumbs up. That was all the conversation we needed. Mom switched Sunday dinner to a group text with assignments. I'll do roast chicken, she wrote. Bring a side. Isabel replied with salad and 3-leaf emojis. Caleb didn't make a joke. He just said, bread. I volunteered to green beans because I had a farmer's market habit now. When we sat down, the table looked like us. A pan that had seen years of rice, a casserole dish with a crack glazed over, a bowl of too much salad. Dad poured iced tea and nodded at me. Thanks for handling the county thing, Kaya, he said, quiet, eyes on his plate like he didn't want to spook the moment. We all handled what was ours, I said. It was true. He took the executor calls. Caleb paid the trash before the lien date and set the $150 on auto pay without me sending reminders. Mom labeled boxes and had the hard conversation with herself about one more month. Isabel packed the house even if she grumbled. I listed, screened, and signed. The math added up because everyone finally picked up their numbers. Caleb buttered bread and bumped my shoulder with his like we were kids at a church picnic. How's the tenant? He asked. She's good, I said. Teacher. Pays on time. She brought me paper towels as a housewarming gift. Isabel glanced up at that, a small something moving behind her eyes. That's nice, she said, and it wasn't barbed. Dad cleared his throat. Trash day is Wednesday, right? It was a joke. It landed soft. We smiled like people who had all been wrong in different ways and were trying to be less wrong now. After dinner, Mom stood at the sink and turned on the water without calling anyone to carry plates to her. She'd put a sticky note on the counter that said, please rinse and stack, with a smiley face. We obeyed the note like it was a rule passed by a kind committee. Isabel carried her plate to the sink and set it down gently. I can take the recycling out, she said to no one in particular. She did. She came back, wiped a ring of water off the table with the side of her hand, and sat. No speeches. Just the small work people do when they know what part is theirs. On my way out, Mom caught my arm. "I'm proud of you," she said, like she was trying the words on to see if they fit. "You were clear." "It helped," I said. We hugged in the hallway where Grandma used to hang our coats on two small hooks when we were little. Mom let go first. At home, I opened the cabinet and took down the blue willow plate. I used it for a slice of leftover pound cake I didn't really need. The chip caught the light. I thought of Grandma's hands, the step stool, the way the bungalow's front door sounded with the new lock, and how it didn't ask me to carry anything extra when it closed. My phone buzzed on the counter. 2 notifications, one after the other. Rent received. H transfer received, $150. The lines in my ledger didn't care if anyone learned anything. They just balanced when they balanced. But the house was paying its own way. The county had nothing taped to the door, and the key lived in a drawer now instead of on my lanyard. That felt like a kind of learning we all could live with. The next Sunday, the group text chimed again with a menu and a couple of check marks as people claimed dishes. No one asked me to float anything. No one suggested one more month. At dinner, the iced tea sweated on the table, and we passed bowls hand to hand without stacking them in front of me. When we finished, everyone stood and carried their plates, even Isabel, who didn't look at me when she reached for the dish soap, which somehow made it easier. Consequences had done their quiet work. No lectures needed. I dried my hands on a towel and leaned back against the counter. The sound of water and forks and small talk fooling the room exactly the amount it was supposed to. When I left, I put my toad on my shoulder and glanced once at the sticky note by the sink. It was still there, curling a little at the corner, doing its job. I said goodbye in the doorway. No one handed me their plate.